It's fascinating, and I want to hear more about it. But I want us to go back a second and go to this first hire of yours. Okay, so you got this client. All of a sudden, he's throwing at you tens of new clients. Who was your first hire in your business? How did it went? Where did you find him? Like, take me into those specifics, because like for us, we're used to, and us, I mean agency owners, SEO experts, however you want to call it. We're used to just take everything on us, and we're trying to give the client all the answers. So how did you manage this?
Well, I'll tell you, in the beginning, I managed it very poorly by being stressed out about it and working long weeks. So, people used to say to me in the beginning, "Oh, you're so lucky because you can work from home," because that wasn't really a thing like it is now. And, you don't have to go to the office and things like that. Now, I used to be like, I'm the only one on Sunday night sitting alone in a dark room answering client emails. Like, to me, you're the lucky one. You get to check out on Friday and you get a steady paycheck. Like, there were a lot of things that I admired about the kind of life that most people kind of took for granted. But when it came to my first hire, it was a she, actually. Her name was Anna. And one of the big tasks I was doing was submitting a lot of content back in those SEO days. So I hired somebody to do a content kind of thing. And I knew absolutely zero about hiring. And I remember going through it. And I think a lot of people can share this kind of experience where, so because I didn't know anything about hiring, Anna was let's just say not the best hire. Let's say that in a nice way. And she was a really nice person, mind you, but as like an employee qualified for the job, I remember she would write posts and I would spend twice as long like editing and cleaning up the language as it took her to write it. And at some point I realized the simple truth that my employee was making my life harder and not easier. And I'm like, I hired somebody to make my life easier and they're making it harder, and I'm paying them on top of it to cut into my profits to make my life harder, because I end up rewriting everything she does anyway. And so it sent me down this long journey. It took me years to figure out that a lot of why people have a hard time hiring is traditional hiring processes are broken in every single fucking way. They're optimized for getting B and C level people. And what most people do is they collect some resumes or they post a job online, and then people bid on that job, and then they interview people and ask them a couple of questions, and they get responses back. And based on who interviews well, they give them a job, and then they give that person some time, and they find out, like, I don't know, weeks, months, days, somewhere in that line, that they're probably not that good at it. And so, like most companies, that's how I modeled my hiring, because that's just what I saw everybody else do. And it was actually, I was reading a book by Perry Marshall, who's a really well-known Google AdWords kind of guru, probably the most famous in that niche. And he said what he did, he considered it like a band. And it was a really interesting metaphor, he said, because when you go to play for a band, if any of you guys are musicians, I play guitar. When you go to play for a band, the band doesn't ask you, can you give me your resume and we'll talk about the last 3 bands you worked for and I'll interview you. The opposite, a band says, get out your guitar and let's play a song. And in 5 minutes, you learn more together about trying to play a song than you would any amount of talking about it. And so this evolved for me out of like one of the real key game changers is the trial assignment, the little paid trial assignment. And so what I would do is I would give people a random topic and have them write a paid article. And I found if I gave 20 people, like virtual assistants, a paid article, that 10 of them wouldn't even write it. They would literally just disappear on me. And so I had this experience a lot of times in the past. Before that, I would hire those people and then a week later realize, okay, I don't think this person works for me anymore because they're gone, right? So, and of those 10, I would get like 5 or 6 of them that just for different reasons, like weren't readable. It would exactly what I described with Anna, where I'd have to redo it and critique it or those things. So I would get 4 people who would write a decent article. And then I would give those 4 people a second article and I'd say, write me one more on this topic. And inevitably 2 of those would be good. And I could end up with 1 or 2 good hires out of all those things. And it was such a game changer for me to approach hiring like band practice, like rather than say, here's the job, I'll just pay you to try something together. And so it's much more designed to test people for their actual capabilities. I just had a girl in my mastermind who had told me she went through this process, and for the first time in her life, she has the best hire she's ever had. This person is working for $250 an hour, which is a good wage where they're from, but for her is very, very affordable. And she said it was kind of amazing because she had never done the trial assignment thing, and she'd had all these like people disappearing and things like that. And this was the first time she said, one of the tasks I had them do as part of the trial was, I'm going to pay you for this trial assignment on TransferWise, which I think has changed their name to Wise. I need you to set up an account so I can send you money. She said of the 20 people or so who applied, like 8 of them couldn't figure out TransferWise, right? So if they can't solve like a basic problem for how to register for a website and basic things like that, like what kind of problem solving ability do you think they're going to bring in your company? So that like easily disqualifies 8 people that in the past I would have previously hired. And when you get past that point where you can start hiring and bringing in good people to do things, it takes so much of the burden off of you. And it's a hard thing mentally to let go when you reach that hiring stage, which is like stage 2 of agency growth. Because in that point, firstly, usually you don't have like huge margins, and it's almost always easier and faster to do it yourself. But I say to people, is the goal to go fast or is the goal to go far? And if the goal is to go fast, then do everything yourself, because you are correct. You will do it faster yourself. Nobody will ever be as fast as you in your own business. But if the goal is to go far, you are limited by 40 to 80 hours of output a week. And if you're like us, where we're parents of young kids, it's more like 14 to 16 hours a week, depending on how much, you know, how cranky they are that day and how well they slept, and naps and shits and changing clothes. And so the more you dial this in process in this hiring thing, it enables you to go from like a 14 to 80 hour output. Suddenly you can do thousands of hours of productive things and not have that burden fall on you. And you can relax knowing that like good people are taking care of it using the systems and processes and training that you have in place, so that, and this is the real key. The real reason to do this, by the way, what everybody forgets, is because it actually ultimately produces a better, more consistent experience for your clients, right? Like if Ray Kroc had to flip every burger at McDonald's, McDonald's would not be what McDonald's is. But instead, he has thousands and thousands of employees in every country that manage those things for him, so that McDonald's can, in my opinion, a shit product, but can consistently produce that shit product in a very consistent way. When you start to run your agency like that, everything stops falling on you as like the be everything kind of person. I think it's a really interesting stage when you get through the hiring. And the agency growth is really, really interesting, because you mentioned before this, I don't know if this was when we were recording or not, but it's very nonlinear. Like entrepreneurship is nonlinear. Like I know for me, the first 6 months of running my agency, I think I made exactly $0, like zero. Not like, and then suddenly somebody asked me if I could help them, and all of a sudden, like it went like in the next 6 months, went to 100 clients, like almost exponentially faster than I could manage and handle it, or at least knew how to do at that point. And it's kind of like that, right? And the interesting thing is, in each step of the journey, the thing that propels you forward is different than the thing that will like got you to this point. So like in the beginning stage, when you're in stage 1 and you're just a freelancer, it's really simple. Is you got to get in front of the business owners you intend to influence. You got to make them an offer, and you got to practice that skill over and over until you start hearing yes out of the situation. And when you do that, you'll have clients, and you'll have a new thing called delivery problems. And the delivery problems is when you have to start bringing in help. And then eventually you'll get good enough at bringing in help that your thing will get even bigger, and suddenly you'll have to manage it if you want to go through those stages. I mean, it's really up to you how you want to build your business. And when you get into the management stages, there's a different set of skills to manage it than it used to be to get to that point. And you'll find you're interrupted all day long, and you have to put like boundaries and measurements at times, because otherwise what'll happen is you'll have all these problems thrown at you all day, and 99% of them are just not that important, and they feel like putting out fires. You have to have like systems in place to focus on the 1% that's really going to move the needle, and have ways of dealing with the other 99% that are largely distractions, and manage those in like a time and energy efficient way. And when you do that, you can grow past that. And it's a really interesting journey, because you're constantly tested, you're constantly learning new skills, and almost always like the thing that keeps you or propels you forward will then get you stuck. Like, so for example, in the first stage, you have to like really sell and get in front of people. But once you do that, and you get past that stage, being the salesperson and all those things will hamper the delivery and all your systems in place. And what you'll find is like your sales will like roller coaster. As you make a bunch of sales, suddenly you're responsible for a bunch of delivery. You take your foot off the sales gas and it like goes in these waves, unless you learn to be able to manage both of those things at the same time. And so it's kind of a fascinating journey, this whole agency growth. But, you know, obviously you can tell I'm really passionate about it, because when you do get it in place, the benefits are just so worth it. You get clients who stay for a long time and pay you and are really happy. You get a really cool lifestyle, and you get, you know, to be free to do whatever you want, for, you know, whether that's sit around and play video games or watch Netflix, or, you know, go to the beach with your kids, which is mostly how I like to use it.
Amazing. Two things about it. First of all, I can totally relate to what you said about the hiring process. And I've recently hired my first VA, and I've watched some tips and tricks on YouTube on how to do it. And instead of just, like you say, go over all the different resumes and stuff like that, which would be a total waste of time, I just told them, look up my name on YouTube, find the latest video that I posted, and post a comment. Just a simple task. And it's amazing that in the first 2 weeks, no one has even read, I believe, no one has even read the actual proposal. Yep. And once someone did, she's the one I'm currently hiring, and I'm very happy, because I feel like the skills, the technical skills of the SEO and of everything, this is secondary. This is something that everyone can learn. This is not the main focus for me. Was find someone who is able to learn and research by themselves, and who's passionate about learning. Yeah. So if you do some kind of a quiz, some kind of a test on this preliminary part, I think you will find that the outliners and the people were most suitable for your business to handle multiple stuff, right? So I do SEO, and I do also Google Ads, and I need at the beginning a person to be my right hand and to help me with all those.